Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome. I am so excited for this amazing webinar that I'm hosting this morning. And thank you to everyone who has joined me on this webinar. So my name is Swapna, and I welcome you to the webinar, The R Factor. Now, before we get started, I just want to if there's a little chat box. You will find a little chat box at the bottom of your screen. And I would love to know who has joined us on this webinar. So if you can just put your name in the chat box and where you're from, we would really like to know where we are from, who we are, and who's on the webinar with us. So please go ahead and do that for me now. Put it in the chat box, your name, and Hillary. Hi, Hillary from Toronto. Hi, how are you? Amit. Hi, Amit. How are you doing? Brenda from Innisfil. Oh my God. Hi, Brenda. It's so good to virtually meet you, after a long time, right? Brenda, it's been a while since we met. Thank you so much for joining me. This is amazing. This is amazing. I have some really, really exciting information to share with you this morning. And the webinar would be for about an hour or so, 45 minutes to an hour. And I'm so excited to share this information with you because this information has changed my life. This has been so instrumental in all the success that I have seen so far. And I'm really excited to share the information with you. In fact, what I'm going to be today is I'm going to be sharing some very, very powerful, proven strategies with you that will help you to build your life, your career, your business, or even your future. For, you've been always wanting to do something more in life. And I'm sure once you follow these 4 steps, it's going to help you do that. All right. So what I'm going to start doing now is I'm actually going to start sharing my screen. So you will not be able to see me, but you will be able to see my screen. Yes, right now. So give me 1 second here. Let me know. Give me 1 second. Yep. Now, if you can see my screen, I would like you to type a yes into the chat box, please. Can you see the screen I'm sharing? Please type a yes if you're able to see it. Yes. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Can you see my screen? Wonderful. I want to see the chat. Yeah. Give me 1 second. Yes, excellent. Veronica. Hi, Veronica. Maureen. Good morning, Michael. Oh my God, so many amazing people on this webinar. And I'm so glad you're here. So just give me 1 second. I'm going to move this chat box over so I get a full access of my screen, right? So are you guys good? You can see it. Hi, Veronica. You can see my screen fine? Okay, excellent. Wonderful. So let's get started. So before we start, who's excited? And if you're ready, can you type in ready for me in the chat box? R-E-A-D-Y, ready. Who's ready? Yay, ready, ready. Hi, Veronica, ready. Hillary, you raised your hand. Ready, Michael, Brenda, ready, Maureen, ready. Wonderful, 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 wonderful. So the webinar today is called as the R Factor. How to get from where you are to where you want to be. Now, sometimes as we're going through life, we feel that the life is a little bit stagnant for us. It's like you're going through motions every day, but nothing is really changing. So what I want to do is I want actually to take you through the process that will help you start dreaming again, right? I want to give you that proven process for creating the life from where you are now to where you want to be. Okay, these proven strategies that I will be sharing today are actually being used by some of the top achievers around the world. People who have been successful wildly in business, sports, entertainment, science, and much, much more, right? They've got some amazing lifestyles. I'm sure many of us and you on this webinar, you know who these people are, right? They have amazing lifestyles. They have terrific relationships. They have very important causes that they're contributing to. And of course, they have all the money in the world, right? They have got the freedom of making their own schedule to focus on the things that they really want to do, right? So what is it that they have and we are struggling with? What is it? So I just want to help you to understand the 4-step formula that once you start applying that in your business, in your life, it's going to skyrocket your life, really, okay? So there are simple 4 steps. So before we get started, I'm just gonna, give me 1 second. Oh. All right, so this is me. My name is Swapna. Many of you know me who's on this webinar. We've met before. We are very good friends. My name is Swapna, and I'm the award-winning author of the book, Your Journey Within, 7 Powerful Steps to Create the Life You Deserve. I'm a professional speaker. I have shared stages with really brilliant legends such as Brian Tracy, Raymond Aaron, my mentor, Jack Canfield. I'm also a certified trainer, a certified success trainer with Jack Canfield in his methodology. And that's what I'm going to be sharing with you today. The proven principles that Jack has taught me has really uplifted my life and my business and my career. And that's what I want to share with you today. But you know, some of you on this webinar know me from before, some don't. But I wasn't always like that, right? I was extremely shy, a total introvert. I had very low self-esteem. I had this extremely low self-confidence. And then I decided, that's the whole point, right? You have to make a decision to change yourself. You have to make a decision. It all starts with a decision. So ultimately, after struggling with myself, after struggling with people around me, I decided that enough is enough. And I now decided to take my life and my family's life, my business to a whole new level, right? And that's when I met Jack. I enrolled into his certification program. I became a certified trainer with him, and his principles have been mind-blowing. They've been changing my life tremendously. And now I'm ready to share that with you. All right? Excellent. So that's about me, and let's just dig deep into this thing. Okay, so the R factor. Now, the first step to creating a different future than the one you already have is this very, 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 I cannot emphasize enough how important and powerful this formula is. It's called E plus R equals O. You have an event in your life, you respond to that event, and that produces an outcome, right? So let me give you an example. Before I learned any of these principles, before I was, like I said, I was really struggling with my life. I used to blame anything and everything around me. For example, if I got a flat tire, I used to respond with frustration. If my bank account was in trouble, I was miserable. If I were, sometimes late for a meeting at my workplace and there was like traffic, bumper to bumper traffic, I used to blame the traffic. That was until I learned this equation where I could actually choose to respond differently as the life's events came up, right? So honestly, the reality is you always have a choice. And the second reality, which is most important, is events just happen. Unfortunately, people are diagnosed with terminal diseases. Unfortunately, tsunamis happen. Unfortunately, the economy, it suffers, right? Unfortunately, we have bad leaders in this world, bad presidents, bad teachers, everyone. So events just happen. but it's how you respond to these events that really matters, right? Often you can't control them because they are as a result of specific situations. They are other people's emotions. You cannot control it. You cannot control the weather. You cannot control the economy. You cannot control a million other details outside of your control, right? Even events just happen. Does that make sense? Do you agree with that? If you agree, just type yes, that you are faced with situations every single day in your life, different events. Totally. Yes, Veronica. Absolutely. Hi, Mentana. It's good to have you on the webinar. Thank you for joining. Yes. So events, like I was saying, events just happen, but it's how you react. Do you react or do you respond? Now, there's a big difference between reacting to an event and responding to an event, right? Now, let me tell you an example of my own very story. My story. Okay, this happened to me about 3 years ago. Okay, 3 years ago, it was the day of my birthday, and I was, my parents live in India, and so I phoned them. Right, it's easier when I phone them. So I phoned them on the morning of my birthday. And my mom started chatting with me as usual. My dad started talking to me, and I'm chatting, and I'm just waiting. I'm waiting for them to wish me a happy birthday. Hi, Rosemary. And I'm just waiting on the call, and I'm waiting, and I'm thinking, okay, now is the time. My mom, she's not wishing me yet. Today is the day of my birthday. My dad, he's not wishing me yet. What's going on? I'm just waiting and waiting and waiting, right? And any other person, before I knew this E plus R equals O, I would have felt so bad. I would have been miserable that my own parents forgot my birthday. My own parents, can you imagine? But because I knew this, because I was going through this training with Jack, I decided to apply this principle to my own life. It was a life situation right there, a real life situation. And I thought to myself, instead of getting frustrated or instead of feeling disappointed with my parents or feeling really depressed with my parents, I decided to just shift my thinking. I decided to respond in a better way, right? So I thought to myself, oh my God, the fact that my parents forgot my birthday, maybe there is something really going on with them, right? So I put my birthday aside for a bit and I asked my mom, I said, Mommy, what's wrong? Like, is there something going on in your life? Are you guys stressed out about something? What's happening? And then she really came out, because my parents really don't like to share their problems. But when I dug in, I really had to do that. I said, what's wrong? Like, is there something you're not telling me? What's going on? And then she came out with the saying that, she's having some health issues and she didn't want to bother me about it because she's been seeing a doctor and they're having some financial difficulties. And I said, no wonder. I mean, can you imagine if I had responded really badly and taken it badly on myself? Can you imagine the tension of the relationship that I would have had with my parents? But because I was able to respond differently, I was able to shift my mind, I understood where they came from. They had so much going on in their lives, right? So it's just an example. It's a real life example, but I want to encourage you to start thinking differently. If your spouse forgets your birthday, oh my God, what's wrong? Something is wrong. If your teenager, if you have a teenager, if they're acting in a certain different way, okay, what's wrong, right? Maybe there's something going on in their lives instead of just snapping back at them or reacting in a different way. Do you get that? Does that make sense? Are you getting what I'm saying? Just type a yes if you're really getting the message here, right? So we have to respond differently. That's the whole bottom thing, right? Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Veronica. Thank you, Amit. You're getting the message, right? Okay, excellent. So there are and let me tell you this, you always have a choice. You have a choice of responding, okay? The choice is either you can be thoughtful and deliberate, or you can be frustrated, reactive, and emotional. It's always your choice. Okay, no matter what happens, and I always tell this to my kids as well, in life, any situation, you always have a choice. Now, remember this, you might have to face the consequences of the choices you make. Whether you make good choices, you get good outcomes. You make bad choices, You face bad consequences, right? But you always have a choice. And so the most terrific part about this whole concept is that it puts the control back into your hands. Now, this is typically important, not when just bad things happen to you. This is also important when good things happen to you, when opportunities show up, when someone comes to you with a great business idea, when someone comes and shares something with you, right? How do people react? Not favorably at all times, right? You know what they really complain about? I've heard that so many times. When someone approaches someone for a great opportunity, they say that, oh, you know what? I'm not ready for this. The timing isn't right. Or, oh my God, this is going to take more work. I'm already so busy. I have a full schedule. Where am I going to get time away from this busy schedule, right? These are all the excuses we've heard. You've heard them 1,000 times, maybe with your clients, maybe with your business partners, right? So you will hear all kinds of things. The most frequent one and the most common one I hear is that, oh, I don't have the money right now. So if not now, then when? Right? This is your life. You're creating your life. You have to take charge. You have to be, in control, right? Excellent. Now let's go on to another portion of this whole responsibility. Taking responsibility thing is that you have to give up all the blaming, all the complaining, all looking out into the world and saying, oh my God, if the world was different, I would be better off. Stop that. I really encourage you to stop that, right? Because my intention for doing this webinar is really to help you to get out of that victim consciousness, right? And be at cause in the world. Be at cause. That's really important, right? So here's the thing is focus on how you will respond appropriately and positively. And the worst thing, you know what's the really worst thing about blaming an event or blaming a person? Especially when, people are blaming and complaining. Have you, let me give you an example. Have you ever heard of anyone complain about gravity? Gravity. Have you ever heard of any person complain about gravity? Yes, have you? No, right? So the reason people don't, no, exactly, Hillary. And especially old people. Have you seen old people, poor people, like they're all bent over and they're walking with their stick or their walker and they never complain about gravity. Why? Why? Can you type in the chat box? Why? Why is it that people don't complain about things that they can't do anything about it, right? Because it just is. Gravity just is, right? So people only complain about things that are changeable, that they can do something about it. Right? Let me give you an example. If you are having a problem in a relationship, maybe with your partner, with your spouse, the reason you complain about your spouse is because you have an image of something better. You have an image of a better spouse, right? Can you imagine if for example, if I'm a man, right? And I have this wife and I'm constantly complaining about my wife to people, right? But can you imagine if on the whole planet, all women are gone and there's just my wife left? Do you think I will ever complain about that woman? No, right? It's as simple as that. So people only complain about things that they have a reference point to, which is something better out there, right? They complain about the weather because they know that if you move south towards Florida or even Mexico or those south places, you have a warm weather. And that's why they can complain about Canada's cold weather, right? Does that make sense? Excellent. Okay. So people complain about things that they can do something about it, right? But why don't they do anything about it? Do you know why people don't do something about things that are things that you can do something about? Do you know why? You know what? Can you type in the chat box? Why do you think people, if they're so miserable in a relationship, in a job, in a business, the things are not working out for them? Do you know why they don't do something about it and why they remain stuck in that position? Do you know why? Let's see if I can get some answers. Because maybe they're afraid of change. That's right. Yeah. Okay. Anyone else? You know why that happens? Let me tell you. Yes, Hillary, they're afraid they will be rejected. Excellent. Yes, yes, absolutely. People are scared of what is different. Wonderful, Veronica. I love these answers. Brilliant answers. That's right. The reason people, these are all great answers, and it comes down to one thing, like just summing everything up, it comes down to one thing, is that people don't want to change their situation is because it's too risky. It's uncomfortable. They don't want to confront what's happening in their life because it's easy to stay put. It's easy to stay where you are than rather be confrontational with the situation or the person in your life, right? And you know, the worst thing about complaining is people complain to the wrong person. So if I'm having trouble with my spouse at home, I go to my workplace and start complaining to my friends about my spouse. Right? If I have trouble at work with my boss, I come home and complain to my spouse. Now, do you think the outcome is really going to change? Do you think that's really going to make any difference in people's lives? No. Then the really best thing to do is confront and talk to the right person, right? If you're having trouble with your wife or your husband, you need to talk to him or her, not go and complain to someone else, because that's not really going to change your situation. Right? So it's really important who or whom you confront with in that kind of situation. And again, the reason people don't do that is because it's too risky, right? They're afraid of losing that relationship. It's very uncomfortable, right? Does that make sense? Excellent. All right, very good. Now, let's move on to the next slide, which is called the yellow alerts. Now, first time when I really heard about this concept of yellow alerts, it just blew my mind. I was like, wow, this is amazing. So are you ignoring the yellow alerts, right? So that's another part of taking responsibility and not being a victim in life is watching out for something that I call the yellow alerts. What are the yellow alerts? The little hints, you know, that the little nagging sensation you have, the little intuition, you know, you get, right? So those are all the internal yellow alerts of something. Maybe there's a situation coming up and you're trying to ignore those yellow alerts, right? So those are the things. I really want you to pay attention to that intuition, that little feeling, the little voice telling you something in your head. Those are the little yellow alerts. So to understand this concept more, let me give you an example, okay? For example, if I hire an assistant, okay, maybe, you know, she's really good. She's doing wonderful in the job. I really like her. She's doing everything on time, perfect. She's really doing a great job for me. And 3 months down the road, she, you know, starts talking to me and says, oh, you know what? I'm really thinking about getting married to this wonderful guy. You know, he's living in Bahamas, but it's not really serious. I'm just thinking about it, right? And I ignore the whole conversation. After 6 months, she comes up to me and says, you know what? I'm really serious about this guy. I really wish I can move to Bahamas. I love the warm weather there, right? And 8 months down the road, and I still ignore what she's saying, right? Because I'm so busy and caught up with what I'm doing right now in my business, I totally ignore her little yellow alerts, right? And 8 months down the road, she comes up to me and says, you know what? I have to quit. I'm getting married. I'm moving to Bahamas. I love the weather there. We already have started looking for a home there. Okay, now what? Now I am stuck without an assistant. There is this tons of things of business I need to handle and there is no assistant. And now I'm freaking out, right? I am scared. I don't know what to do. But who brought that situation upon me? I did. I take responsibility for that, because if I were paying attention to everything that she was saying for the last 8 months, I would have started looking maybe, you know, for a new assistant, right? So that's what I call about yellow alerts. So these are the external yellow alerts. And the one I talked about before were the internal ones, the little nagging feeling. Oh, I feel queasy in my stomach today. Oh, you know what? I'm starting to get this headache. I don't know, but oh, you know what? I don't have time to look after my health. I'll just put it off, right? And then few days down the road, you end up in a hospital, maybe with some major illness, right? So these are the yellow alerts. So take responsibility for everything, what you eat, what you read, who you hang out with, right? Your health, your finances. You need to take control of everything that's happening in your life right now. Because I always emphasize on the fact that everything that you have experienced in your life up until now is what you have created. And once you get this concept that you have created everything in your life right now, you can easily uncreate it and recreate something better, right? Does that make sense? Can you type in the chat box if you're with me right now? And if you're following, what I'm talking about, and you can relate to what I'm talking about, can you just say yes? Yes, yes, Veronica, thank you, yes. Yeah, thank you, Amit, that's amazing, yeah. So, sorry, I'm just gonna sip water here. So that's what I mean by yellow alerts, right? Taking action is uncomfortable, is inconvenient, but remember, you're not the victim here, right? You are creating whatever's happening in your life right now. And I want you to take ownership for that, okay? Excellent. Now let's move on to the new slide. The next slide is called a difficult or troubling situation, right? I want to direct your attention to two different exercises. It was in the free workbook that was included with today's class. If you don't have the workbook yet, don't worry about it. You can download it after this webinar. It was included in your confirmational email that you received about signing up for the webinar, right? So if you don't have that in front of you right now, don't worry about it. You can always go back to it, refer to it, right? So there's this exercise that it's called the difficult or troubling situation, right? It's the exercise number 1 in the free workbook. And I highly encourage you before the end of this week, before Sunday, I give you until Sunday, before Sunday, I really encourage you to go through that workbook. It's very powerful exercises, drills, because every time you listen to something, right, you soak up all the information. We have all done there, been that. You go to different seminars, you listen to different leaders, you listen to all the people who are teaching you stuff. You soak everything up, but unless and until you put it into application, into practice, it's not really going to do anything for you. Does that make sense? Like my mentor, Jack, says, don't have a shelf esteem. That means don't take everything and put it on the shelf, right? Use it. Use what you've learned. So similarly, there are exercises in the workbook, there are drills, and the whole point of this webinar is that I want it to be an experiential opportunity for you, not just something that you were going to sit and listen to me for 1 hour, right? So I really encourage you to do that. Go through the workbook after the webinar by the end of this week and go and do those drills. They are extremely powerful. Now let me explain what the first exercise is all about. It's called a difficult or troubling situation analysis, right? So just like any unexpected event, we are all experiencing or undergoing some very difficult, troubling or difficult situations in our lives, right? So no matter how well you prepare yourself for all the hardships, sometimes they just happen. Sometimes you go through all these difficult, troubling situations, right? Now this drill, actually, it has a few questions which I want you to answer, and this will actually make you go through that difficult or troubling situation. It'll help you face those problems, and by the end of it, you will actually have a solution for that troubling situation you're facing right now. So I'll leave that up to you. I know, I trust you, and I know you would do that exercise on your own, okay? So let's move on to the next exercise in the workbook. It's called the exercise on yellow alerts, right? So this is really powerful. What are you pretending not to know? What is it that you are ignoring right now in your life? What is it that you're pretending not to know, right? That's the second exercise. You are experiencing some negative outcomes in your life, because perhaps you're ignoring the facts or you're creating excuses for that part of your problem, right? I want you to go through that exercise, the drill number 2, exercise number 2, called as the yellow alerts, and identify that part in your life, that portion of what are you ignoring. Because let me tell you, the best way to handle any problem, any problem, any situation in your life is by confronting it, not by ignoring it, not by pretending to, pretend that it doesn't exist. That's not going to help the situation. The situation is not going to vanish by itself. It's only when you take the corrective actions is when you are going to get a better outcome in your life. So that's the next one. That's the yellow alerts. Again, I really highly encourage you to do that until the end of this week. Whatever your troubling situation is, maybe it's your health, maybe it's your finances, maybe there's a relationship that you're not happy in, or you want to correct that relationship. Whatever it is, I want you to be really honest with yourself and answer those questions and work on those. Okay, so now this brings us to step number 2. Remember at the beginning of the webinar, I said I have 4 steps I want to share with you today. So that was step number 1, a very, very crucial and important step. Taking responsibility for your life and your results is actually the foundation, the basis upon which everything else rests. Okay, so that was what we first discussed. Now, step number 2 is deciding what you want. So once you get control of your life, once you take back control, once you're back in charge, you need to decide what is it that you want? What is it that you truly want? And not only decide, write it down, put it on paper, put it in writing, right? Because you'll be surprised once you write it down, the universe somehow plots in such a way that it does you and gives you everything that you need. But you have to know, where are you going in life? What is the ultimate goal? What is your vision? What is your purpose, right? So you have to decide what is it that you really want. And when I say what you want, I mean what you want, right? Not what someone else wants, or not what you should be doing, or not what you should be wanting. It is what you really, really want, okay? So honestly, please, please, please do not live someone else's dream. It is your dream. It is important to you, right? So make sure you stick onto that. Focus on your dream, right? Unfortunately, we know a lot of people out there who are focused on someone else's dream. Maybe this is what my dad wanted me to do, or this is what my wife expects out of me, and that's why I should be doing it. Please stop that, because you're not serving anyone right there, okay? So the moment you decide what is it that you truly want, your subconscious mind recognizes all the opportunities that gravitate to you and help you make that dream come true. Okay, so I highly encourage you to sit down and do the exercise number 3 in the workbook, which is called Make an I Want list. This is very, very simple, right? If you can get the help of a friend, you may want to do that, or for yourself, you can do that by yourself. All you have to do is get your friend or your spouse or your partner to ask you just one question. What do you want? Just repeat the question over and over again for about 10 to 15 minutes and write down the answers. What do you want, right? And, whenever I've done this exercise, I have seen that at the beginning, people come up with everything superficial, right? Like, I want a big house, I want a big car, I want, all the money, which is great. I mean, of course, money is important, don't get me wrong. But ultimately, by the end of the exercise, they come up with the real meaningful things, right? I want to be happy, right? I want to be significant in what I'm doing. I want to make a difference. I want people to love me, right? So these are all the wants and the true expressions of your heartfelt desires. So I highly encourage you to do that. It's called I Want List exercise. It's in your workbook. It's the exercise number 3, right? These are the true expressions, and this is what your true desire will be. And once you connect with your true desire and your wants, you will see magnificent change in your life. All right? Excellent. Which brings us to exercise number 4 in the workbook for today's webinar, which is called as the vision exercise. Now, many of you have either been a part of a vision, like a meditation group, or you would like to be a part of it, or maybe you've done certain visualization exercises at home, right? So the workbook actually gives you a step-by-step process of how you can actually do the visualization all by yourself at home, right? So there are 7 key areas in your life, 7 key areas. Number 1 is your career and your professional life or your business. Number 2 is your finances. Number 3 is your recreation and free time. Number 4 is your physical health and your body. Number 5 are your relationships. Number 6 is your personal growth. And number 7 is the contribution or the community work that you want to do in this world. Okay? These are the very, very, very 7 important aspects of your life. And every time you have a vision for your life, I really encourage you to write down at least one of those in each of the categories, in the 7 areas of your life. It's all there in your workbook. Don't worry about it. You can always refer back to those 7 areas in your life, right? And then they actually, in the workbook, it gives you a step-by-step process as to once you decide what you want, is you need to visualize this. You need to be able to vividly create an image of what is it that you truly want in life. Okay, excellent. I hope you're following me so far. I hope you're liking what I'm talking about. It is really effective. It has changed my life. And I really want that for everyone out here who's attending my webinar. All right, so let's move on to step number 3. So out of the 4 steps, we are now on to step number 3, which is called setting specific measurable goals. Okay, so we had step number 1, where we started, where we took back control of our life, right? We are in charge. Step number 2 is we have decided what we want for our lives. And now the vision that you have in all 7 areas of your life, the vision that you have created for yourself, you are now going to convert that vision into specific measurable goals. Okay, so specific goals tell your brain exactly what to achieve. Specific goals, right? So they have to be specific and measurable, and in such a way that they can be measured by an outside person. Okay, let me give you an example. So if my goal is that I want to own a house by the lake someday, right? That's a very, very, very vague goal I have, or maybe it's a vision I have, right? But now I need to create that dream into a specific measurable goal, right? So you need more information for that. Okay, so maybe my goal would sound something like this, which is more tangible, is that I will own a 4,000 square feet house by the Lake Ontario in Mississauga by midnight, April 30th, 2025. Do you get it? Do you see the difference? It is how much by when. The moment you put a deadline, a set deadline on your goal, makes it more specific, measurable, and clear, defined. Okay? So you have to put the deadline on your goal. Now, people have asked me this, and that's why I wanted to address this little situation, is that people have said, oh my God, I had put a deadline on my goal and I'm not able to achieve that. What should I do? Hey, don't worry. You have to stick to your goal. Okay, so your goal should still remain the same. If that's what you want, that's what you want, right? You're allowed to extend the deadline. Okay, that's really important, but do not change your goal. Okay, so the goal has to be specific and measurable and clearly defined. Okay, excellent. So now the minimum target outrageous. Now this is a technique that I have learned from my other mentor, Mr. Raymond Aaron. He has this really powerful goal setting technique that he has taught us. It is called as minimum, target, and outrageous. And all the goals in all 7 areas of my life, what I have done is I have broken them into these 3 categories: minimum, target, and outrageous. Okay, so let me explain what I mean by that. So an outrageous goal, let's start with an outrageous goal. An outrageous goal is always something that would just blow your mind if you achieved it. Okay, it is something that is too overwhelming even to start with. Okay, but imagine if you achieve that outrageous goal, that's it. Your life is going to be exponentially and expanding in all ways, right? That's an outrageous goal. A target goal is usually something which is within your capabilities. You set a target and you can achieve that. So it's within that capacity, you know you can do it. And minimum goal is something you're almost guaranteed to reach no matter what. Do you get that difference? So those are the 3 categories I want you to start putting your goals in. Okay, minimum, target, and outrageous. So what happens is your minimum goals are guaranteed to get you started. Because sometimes what happens is sometimes we have these big goals, okay? We have huge goals, but once we look at that goal and we try to be realistic about it, it seems very overwhelming. But as soon as you break them down into these 3 categories, even if you achieve the minimum, it gives you a sense of confidence. It gives you that, that power that, oh yes, I can achieve my goals, right? So it is really important to categorize your goals in these 3 categories. Excellent. Now let's talk about something called as having a breakthrough goal. Okay, this is really important. Now you have all these goals, like I mentioned before, in 7 categories. But what if you were to focus on a single goal, which is called as the breakthrough goal, that will up-level every area of your life, right? For example, I'll give you my very own example of a breakthrough goal. My goal this year for 2019, my breakthrough goal is to be able to help and make a difference in the lives of 100 individuals, minimum 100 people through my webinars, through my trainings, my workshops. I really want to help these 100 people who are stuck in their business, in their life. They have certain barriers, certain obstacles. I want to help them overcome that. I want to help them break free of all those barriers. That's my breakthrough goal, right? And guess what? Once I achieve that goal for myself, by helping others, I'm definitely going to improve in all areas of my life. So that's a breakthrough goal, something that you want to focus on, which will up-level and improve your life dramatically once you achieve that goal, okay? So that's what I call a breakthrough goal. That is one goal that you will focus on with all your energy and get that done this year. So I want you to focus on what, like, you know, when you go through the workbook, make sure you write down that goal for yourself, okay? Wonderful. Now, the next thing I want you to bring your attention to is called affirmations. Now, many of you know what affirmations are, right? Affirmations are actually statements, vividly detailed statements of you living, working, and enjoying life as if your goals have already been achieved. Yeah, so that's an affirmative statement, is that that goal has been achieved. So once you have your vision, once you have converted that vision into a specific measurable goal, make sure you write down the affirmation for that goal as already been achieved. Those are the affirmations. Now, you can use like a 3x5 cards, which you can write your affirmative statements or affirmations on. But the repetition here is the key, because, you know, it has been proved by researchers and scientists that our brain is actually a goal-seeking organism. If you give it a compelling and a colorful, crystal clear image of what is it that you want, it will work day and night to create those opportunities. It will help you reach out to those contacts. It'll gravitate all those resources, and you will be faced with certain situations or circumstances that will actually help you in achieving that vision and your goals. So that's why it's really important for you to write down those affirmations, right? The little part in your brain is called the reticular activating system, and that's what it does. Researchers have proven that. So I highly encourage you to do that. Write them down on a 3x5 postcards and keep them with you, okay? Wonderful. Now that brings us to action number 4, which is take action on your goals. Step number 4, take action on your goals, right? We have come to the most important step in the original 4-part formula I introduced at the beginning of this webinar. This is really, 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 I cannot emphasize how much really important is to take action on your goals. And honestly, let me share this with you. The reason why Secret, the movie Secret, many of you must have read the book or even heard about the movie Secret, is it didn't work is because people, you know, for some reason, they just focused on the first 3 parts of, you know, you have to have a vision, start believing in it, and let the universe do the work. But what about action? Unless you actually take action on those goals, nothing's going to happen for you, right? So that's really important, is that you need to start taking action on your goals. And, you know, if your goal is big, don't get overwhelmed. You can easily chunk them down into smaller tasks. Just break them down into smaller goals. Break them down into smaller tasks that you can easily do and accomplish. And it's precisely, you know, it depends on how big your goals are, right? So chunk them down. Break your goal into bite-sized pieces and baby steps. Baby steps. That's the key, baby steps. You can begin accomplishing the small tasks that will eventually lead you to achieving your big goals, right? So chunk it down. This is really important. Chunking it down. Determine the baby steps, okay? So unfortunately, let me tell you this. What happens is, you know, in order for you to start achieving your goal, you have to do a little bit of preparation. You have to do the planning. I get it. You have to do the research, right? You have to do everything that's needed for you to take those steps, the action steps, right? But unfortunately, many of the people just get bogged down with all the preparation and all the planning that needs to be done. They get stuck there, right? And that's the biggest barrier they put on themselves, and they don't take those actions that need to be taken. So preparation is important. Planning is important. Yes, don't get me wrong. It is very important. But it's how you move from that phase onto the next phase of taking action on your goals. That's very important. Excellent. Now let's look, like I was talking about chunking it down. So let's look at the rule of 5. So there are 5 things that you need to do every single day towards accomplishing your goals. 5 things, right? Let me give you an example. Okay, so for example, you've decided to save money from your paycheck every single month, and you've decided to save it for something called as an emergency fund, okay? So this is just an example I'm giving you. Suppose you've decided that you're going to save 3 months worth of living expense in an emergency fund, and you're going to do that every month. You're going to put away a little bit of your money that you make, okay? So that seems overwhelming to most people. Oh my God, I can barely live on my paycheck. How am I going to put that away, right? So don't be overwhelmed. You can break that down into 5 steps. Number 1, first and foremost, the most important step is how much. Determine the amount of money per month you would need to do this. Number 2, identify what portion of your savings you are ready to put into the special fund. Number 3, make a list of all the money sources that you can have. Maybe you get a bonus. Maybe you make more commission from your, in your paycheck, from maybe you made some more sales and you've got all that commission. You have extra money, right? Step number 4, make a list of all the unused items in your house. And I'm sure all of us have those things, right? And can you really make money out of it? Can you sell it? Can you sell it on Craigslist? Can you sell it on eBay, right? So these are all the ways you can do. And number 5 is you need to open a new bank account for putting away this money before you start making more money. right? So this was just an example of how those steps can be broken down into 5 simple things that you can do every single day. Now, this is applied, and this can be applied to any aspect of your life or any goal that you have. Chunking it down is really, 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 really important. Okay? Wonderful. Now, this is something which is truly important, and I really want you to focus on this, is that you need to clean up messes and incompletes in your life. Is there something that, hinders people from taking any action at all? You know how I was talking about people, do all these big planning and they know what to do, but they stop, right? And the reason, one of the thing is that they are not confident. There's an overwhelm. There's a lack of confidence, right? Is they can't accomplish even the smallest of the baby steps is because they don't feel confident. Another reason is because they feel overwhelmed because of the number of things that they have going on in their life. We all have so much stuff to do already that taking on something new seems like, whoa, I can't do it anymore, right? And the number 3 is they are afraid to ask. This is so important. They are afraid to ask for help. If there's a project that they're working on, they're afraid to ask for the expertise of other people who've already done it. They're afraid to ask for money, right? Let's focus on the second one right now, actually, which is cleaning up your messes and incompletes. This is so important because I have seen a lot of people who are so overwhelmed with the amount of tasks that they already have to do that they sort of put their goals and their dreams and their vision on a side burner, right? So most of us have a lot of messes in our house. Like maybe we have these overflowing closets, or at our office, we have, these piles of paperwork. Our taxes are not in place. Or maybe we have some very estranged relationships, not great relationships with certain family members. Our finances are not in order. Whatever major areas that, in your life, you have all these messes and incompletes is what I really want you to focus on. Okay, you have this nagging health condition that you need to address, right? We have all these, and until and unless you clear these messes and you clear these incompletes, you feel you're going to be stuck where you are, right? So there is something in our brains or in our mind, which the psychologists call as the attention units. So every time you have all these messes, all these incompletes in your life, that's where your attention units, they take you away from the focus of your goals. Your attention is stuck on that. Imagine, you're in a situation, you're working in your office and you have these 3,000 emails in your inbox, which you haven't answered or replied back to. You have, certain phone calls that are pending. You have all these unanswered letters sitting on your desk. You have a cluttered desk. All this is taking away the focus from the real meaningful things in your life, which is your goals, right? So you need to handle those incompletes. And let me tell you what really happens, like within ourselves, in our subconscious mind, is that if you see your closet is overflowing, if you see your clothes are all over the place, if you see all these huge paperwork and the mess in your office, what really goes back in your subconscious mind is that you are put in a state of resignation, which means you think to yourself that, oh my God, if I'm not able to handle these small things in life, if I'm not able to take care of my home, if I'm not able to take care of all the stuff at work, how am I going to build this multi-million-dollar business? How am I going to be able to help others if I'm not able to help myself? Does that make sense? So I really encourage you to take charge of those messes, handle those incompletes, and you will see your confidence really skyrockets in every possible way. Okay, so that's one thing I really want you to focus on, is handling your messes and your incompletes, right? So take time to do that. Maybe what you can do is start putting those messes down on paper and just go through the checklist. It's like making a checklist. And every week, Focus on tackling at least 2 of those messes if you can, every week, okay? Wonderful. So this is really important. And I have done this myself, and I've seen huge, huge, huge result of handling those incompletes. Now, the next thing which I really want to address on, and this was a problem for me at the beginning as well, is that asking for what I wanted. Okay, I was so low on the self-confidence and low on self-esteem, like I said, and I was always afraid to ask people for anything. Maybe asking for help, asking for their expertise, asking for their advice, because I used to always think in the back of my head is, oh my God, who am I? Who am I? Why would someone really want to help me, right? And people are afraid to ask. And the only reason people are afraid to ask is because they're afraid of rejection. Right? Don't say no to yourself in advance. That is really, really important, right? Because whenever you ask for something, it's very important to have that intention in your mind that you are asking and the outcome is going to be positive. That is what should go on in your mind. And it's fine. What if you get a rejection? Big deal. Go to the next person, right? Like my mentor, Jack, says, you have to become an ask-hole. Right? He says, ask. No matter what, don't stop yourself. Ask until what you get what you want. Ask for it, right? Imagine if Jack Canfield, as many of you know who he is, he's the co-creator of the Chicken Soup for the Soul series and the co-author of the Success Principles, right? And he is the most loved person on this planet. He is America's #1 success coach. Imagine if he had stopped asking his publishers for publishing the Chicken Soup for the Soul after 2 rejections, 10 rejections. We would not know this person, right? I would not be trained under him. So he had to face 144 rejections before he got his book out. So what is our excuse, right? You just need to go and ask. And I'm sure someone is out there waiting to say yes. The more no's you get, the closer you are to 1 yes. Okay, does that make sense? I really want some feedback from you guys. Please type in the chat box if this is really making sense to you. If this is helping you in any way, just type yes. Yes, Hillary, thank you. Thanks, Amit. Yes, this is great. Yeah, I love all of it. Oh, thank you, Veronica. This is great. Yes, it is because, and I can be so confident about this material and talk to you about it and share this with you is because I have been there. I have gone through this material 100 times with Jack, and it has really, really, really changed my life. Thank you, Maureen. Thank you. All right. So again, I highly encourage you, we are almost at the end of this webinar, and I highly encourage you to go through the workbook again. Oh, Terry, thank you. Praveen, thank you so much. Nice job. Thank you, Terry. I really appreciate that. And I really want you to go through the workbook that is included in the webinar. And it is, you have had a link. Whenever you register for the webinar, you got a link. So please go through that workbook yourself. Now, there are 2 things I want you to commit to doing. 2 things. Now, remember, this commitment is not to me. It's a commitment that you're making to yourself for creating your future, okay? So we talked about those 4 steps, okay? The first one was taking 100% responsibility for your life and results and taking back control of your life. Number 2, to recap, is deciding what you truly want in life. Number 3 is setting those goals, setting specific measurable goals. And number 4 is taking action. Now, in taking action, we talked about all the reasons why people stop themselves from taking action, what are the obstacles they face, and what you need to do to overcome those obstacles, right? And one of the most important thing is asking. So I want you, out of those 4 things, of all the things that we talked about today, I want you to commit doing one thing. What can you do immediately after today's webinar? And I really want you to post that in the webinar chat. Just put that in. Is it step number 1? Is it step number 2? Is it the goals? Are you going to be writing down your goals every month from now on? Is it the taking action part? Is it asking? Can you all type in the chat box that one commitment? that one thing you would definitely do after you've finished this webinar. I'll give you guys a few minutes. So just type in the chat box. What is it? Is it the action you're going to be taking? Is it something that you've, stopped yourself because you've been afraid to ask? Are you going to go and ask that? Brenda, step number 2. Wonderful. Oh my God, this is so great. Thank you for sharing, Brenda. I really want you to focus on that. Amit, I will be defining my goals more clearly. Thank you. Eat lunch, then step. Michael, yes, it is lunchtime. It's 12 o'clock. I get it. All steps. Okay, that's good too. But you know what, Praveen? I really encourage you to start focusing on one thing, right? I mean, I'm happy you're going to do all 4. I mean, that's the whole point, right? Maureen, cleaning up my messes. Yes, this is big. This is big, 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 big. And you will see that once you start cleaning up the messes, you will actually see an increase in your income. It's crazy, I know. And I've done that, and I did that. And the moment I did that, boom, my bank account went up. Terry, writing the weekly goals down, and yes, writing them down. Writing them down is really, really, really important. So I'm so happy you got a lot. Hillary, action to access financials for US joint venture. Wonderful. And if you have to ask something in that context, Hillary, yes, please go ahead, do that. Ask, don't stop yourself. Yes, yes, yes. Wonderful. So I really want you to stick to and commit doing that one thing to create the future that you want and you desire, right? And this commitment, like I said, although you have it in the chat box, you've shared it with me, and thank you so much for sharing. It is really a commitment, that an agreement you're making to yourself, okay? So I really want you to do that. And the second thing that I invite you all, invite each and every one of you who is on this webinar, I invite you to my workshop. I'm having a half-day workshop. It's called Success is a Learned Behavior. It's going to happen on April 30th at 6 o'clock. It's in the evening. So we will start at 6 and we will go until about 9:30 or so. And what's going to happen in this workshop is that I'm going to actually drill down more onto all these principles and focus on each and every one of you. Now, remind you, this is going to be a really small group because I really want to focus and, focus all my energy on helping each and every one of you in the room. So I'm limiting this to only 10 participants. So it's really going to be more of a mastermind group more than anything. We're going to throw off ideas, bounce off ideas each other, and we're going to be in this together because, the only way we can grow is by being a team. We have to grow together in this whole process, right? And you need an accountability partner. So that's another thing that I'm really big on. So once we have this small group, we're going to pair off and we're going to be accountability partners for each other. Okay, so this is what's happening on April 30th. It's at 6 o'clock. It's going to be in Mississauga. And there's a that's the link for you to register. Amit just put it in the chat box actually. And I really want you to come to this workshop with me and really drill down these drills. There are actually 47 principles that 67 principles that Jack talks in the success principles. Now, of course, I'm not going to be able to cover all 67, but we will be talking about the 10 most fundamental principles. I gave you 4 today because that's all I can cover in an hour. There's so much material. There's so many drills. There's so many exercises. And by the end of the workshop, the focus is to bring out a clear picture. Like you get immense clarity of your future and you will be able to propel in full force with all that you've been stuck. You will get rid of all the obstacles, get rid of all the barriers that you're facing right now. So it's happening on April 30th at 6 o'clock. It's at Mississauga. There's a very, very, very minimal fee that I am charging for this. It's only $47. It's only $47 Canadian and plus tax, of course, right? So I really want you to see each and every one of you who are on this webinar because I feel that I have started like a movement And I really want for you to be on the completion end of it and not just leave it halfway hanging in the air, right? So I really encourage you to come to this workshop. It's going to be about 4 hours. It's a half-day workshop. It's on Tuesday evening at 6 o'clock on April 30th, okay? And which brings us to the end of this webinar. I really want to thank each and every one of you who came to this webinar, believed in me, trusted in me, showed me all their faith. And it's really important because, you know, once you're on a movement, once you've decided this is your mission in life, in order to help people, you need people, right? You need people who trust in you. You need people who know that you are going to make a difference in their lives. And I really want to thank each and every one of you who are on this call, on this webinar. And thank you. Have a wonderful, wonderful, blessed day. And I will see you soon in my workshop on April 30th. Thank you. I'm going to be ending this webinar. Thank you so much. Terry, thank you for your time and knowledge to share. Thank you so much, Terry. I'm so happy to see you on this webinar. I love you, and we will see each other. Hillary, thank you, Swapna. It was terrific to see you. And Amit, yes, I can't wait to see you in person, Hillary. I really am looking forward to seeing you again. Thank you, Veronica. Thank you, Maureen. Thank you, Brenda. Thank you, everyone who has been on this webinar. I am so excited. I got to share this information with you, and I'm even more excited that I will hopefully be seeing you in my workshop very, very soon, next month, and we will be able to bring the clarity, bring the immense clarity that you've been waiting for and that you want in your life. So thank you, thank you, thank you, and have a wonderful, wonderful day. Bye-bye.